All right, welcome to Let Me Talk to My Customer. We are back with our second video podcast. Rich and I are just oozing with confidence now that we are basically seasoned video broadcasters here. So thanks for joining us here. We hope that you'll follow along with us and find us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, as that's where we're on now, Counts Business Consulting. You can find us there. And then on our audio format, obviously Spotify, iTunes will still be there as well. We thank you for listening and hanging in there with us. If you would like or review the podcast or subscribe on YouTube, those are all helpful for us. As always, you can reach us on Facebook at Counts Business Consulting or our website at countsbusinessconsulting.com. We'd love to hear from you. We love your support of the show. It's been great to see our audience grow globally and see all these different countries and states we're filling in the map. And so we're glad our reach is growing. So, Rich, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great, doing great.
All right. One pitch here before we get into our show and our topic for this week. I wanted to let everybody know we have a new series of sales training that will be launching at the end of this month. We have our sales closing school that we're going to be debuting. It's a 4-week series, $600 per person. We do have group rates available for companies that are going to be sending 3 or more salespeople. This is going to be starting Tuesday on August 25th, and we're going to be running this at 7 a.m. in each time zone, Eastern through Pacific. We'll even have this available in New Zealand and Australia. And so we look forward to hearing from you guys and having you sign up there. It's going to run as a 4-week series, and we'll be able to go into detail. This is no cost, no missed work, no travel expense. Sorry, not no cost, no travel expense. So this is a new way to do sales schools and sales training. And we think this is something that will really engage your team and help benefit them. It's a new format, and we're excited to bring that forward, lower the bar of costs so that more salespeople can participate in this and receive this training. We also have new salesperson trainings. This is going to be split between Wednesdays and Thursdays starting August 26th or 27th, depending on your time zone. So please follow up with me at crcounts at countsbusinessconsulting.com to get more information. This will be a series that really introduces and brings new salespeople up to speed, gives them a good foundation so that they can start executing at a higher level. All of these programs are based in the long-term training that Rich and I do, the one-on-ones, the team trainings that we do with that same mentality, both in terms of working on technique, working with people, and getting them to rehearse, to practice their skills, hone their craft, to ensure better performance. So the new salesperson training is only $400 per person. That's $100 per session, and group rates are available there as well. So please reach out to me. These are just the first of 2 series that we have. We have many more planned. And thankfully, with Rich's bilingual skills, we will have these available in Spanish if those are so desired. So we look forward to expanding our sales training line and programs for each of you. And we're glad that we're able to provide them at a time that I think works really well. 7 a.m. seemed to be a really great time for sales training and sales management. So we hope you find that beneficial for your team and something that you look forward to investing in. All right. With that said, Rich, what do you have for us this morning, sir?
Yeah, so today's program is Reprogramming for Success. I think this will be a good complement to our podcast on the mental game. I was thinking a lot about the mental game as I started working with a new client last week. I wanted to talk about what it is, what some of the first steps that somebody can do if they're looking to improve. And some of those first steps are mental. And it really starts with what a salesperson's self-concept is. And so the self-concept is just all your beliefs that you have about yourself, how you see yourself, what you think. And the self-concept is essentially like an operating system that determines what you feel, what you say, how you act. Okay. And that there is a relationship between our self-confidence, our self-concept and our confidence, our performance, and our effectiveness. Okay. And the idea is that we are always going to perform consistently along the lines of what our self-concept is. Okay. Any change or improvement in our life comes from altering or improving our self-concept.
Okay. Can you give us some examples or archetypes of what some of that self-concept would look like in salespeople that you've worked with?
Okay, sure, absolutely. So, one of the ones that came to mind as I was thinking about this was, you and I maybe a year or year and a half ago worked with a gentleman who had zero experience selling recycled parts.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, I don't even think he had all that much experience in the automotive field at all. Like,
yeah, pretty green, I think, in terms of sales, in terms of automotive, in terms of, was really very much a blank slate.
right. And so like when we came on to work with him, there was a lot of that like beginner training. And then the guy, probably after 3 months, maybe 4 months, he was already, selling over $100,000 a month, And I remember then we talked a lot about, okay, what is it that he's doing? What is it that he's doing differently? What is it that is allowing him to be so successful? And I think what we came to was, well, he didn't know that he wasn't supposed to sell $100,000 a month. He didn't have any self-concept that was limiting.
Yeah, I think the mindset and attitude that he had, and just this hunger for opportunity, that every basically transaction or interaction he had, he was trying to get the most out of. So if I remember right, he even got to 200,000 within the first year. And that was something that was really exciting and electric to see somebody just continue to push themselves. And he was very dutiful. Not like you said, not necessarily that he knew the most about the industry or even necessarily his customers, but he did what he said. He worked hard. He tried to find the best offer solution for anybody out there. And that was his mindset. I think his mindset was, I'm going to do the best that I can at every opportunity. And just something that was not necessarily a perfectionist, but just this driven mindset of, here I am, I'm just going to try and make the most and do the best of everything that I have. And that's obviously a great self-concept to have, and probably one of the best to have, right? So what would be some of the other end of that? So that's a really good self-concept. What would be more on the limiting side of a self-concept?
Right. And I think it's a lot easier to come up with examples of that. But so just to kind of drill down to something smaller. So, we're talking in general, there's a self-concept. And then there's also, if we're going to talk about it in regards to sales, there's also many self-concepts in regards to all of the things that sales consist of. So I was just thinking about one of the areas that salespeople typically have a negative self-concept is in their ability to prospect. I think most all of the salespeople that we work with, unfortunately, when we start off, have a negative self-concept in regards to prospecting, in that it's something they don't feel confident about. It's something that they avoid. It's something that is a source of anxiety for them. And it's it's just something they would rather do anything than try and call back a quote from last week that might close this week.
Yeah, and that very much seems to be, in some ways, it's regional, or it's maybe at different levels of professionalism. I think that a lot of sales people start with. There's no other industry that I know of in sales where we have so much resistance to calling out to cold, whether it be cold calls, just calling customers that don't even have a request in with us. I think that's standard practice in almost any other sales industry, let alone, hey, following up on an initial request and an order. What a crazy idea.
Yeah.
And it's funny that there's almost probably a self-concept on a team or a company as well, right? In terms of we don't call back as a team. We're so busy, we don't do that. We just manage inbound traffic, really. We don't do cold calling. And then we work with other organizations that, man, that's all they do. If you want to start out and you're going to earn your spurs here, you're going to earn your place, you start. You don't even get to pick up inbound calls to start with.
Right.
You make your bones by going out there and introducing yourself to customers, and then we'll cut you loose and bring you in on phone lines from there. So there's very purposeful and significant influence and shaping of the culture on the counter, the concept on the counter, to even create that in those cases.
Yeah, for sure. And so the idea is that also I was thinking about this, like I said, because I started working with a new client last week who this particular salesperson is on a very large team of salespeople. I think maybe there's like 10 other people on his team, and he's consistently one of the bottom sellers. And it's not that he is not smart. It's not that he doesn't want to do better. It's not that he lacks the skill to do better. I think really one of the main issues that we are addressing together is that he needs to change his self-concept from wherever it is that he's selling now. I think he does maybe about $40 or $50 or $40 or $50,000 a month. And so he is in a mindset where he is a $40 or $50,000 a month seller, without necessarily taking into perspective the fact that he is the lowest seller on his team, and he's simply comfortable with that self-concept as being a $50,000 a month seller. And so one of the very first things that I know this particular salesperson will need to do is to start working on changing his self-concept. I think a lot of times we see and work with salespeople who will have a really great week. They'll sell outside of whatever their self-concept is. And then the next week, they'll kick their feet up, and they'll be wandering around the yard, and they'll be taking longer smoke breaks, and they'll be looking for knick-knack parts instead of trying to continue with that self-concept that is more successful than how they typically are.
Yeah, and I think this can come, especially the first example that you gave, can come in many different formats. I think there's sometimes where a new salesperson comes in and they reach a certain plateau. I've seen this more with salespeople that aren't fully a salesperson, right? So they get moved, maybe it's from secretary to sales, maybe it's from part production work to sales, eBay or something like that. And you're right, they don't view themselves as a full salesperson. If anything, they think, oh, well, if I really hustle or start grabbing a lot of phone calls, I'm taking away from the salespeople that really need that traffic, as opposed to, these calls might go unanswered. there's opportunity here. Nobody told them to slow down or do that, but they're taking it on themselves to limit their own performance. I think the other end of it too is people that are getting themselves into these spots where that's all they think of themselves, or I really have a problem being comfortable, especially if it's at a level where the performance is substandard. And to me, substandard means a lot of different things. I've seen people be comfortable at 100,000, or 120,000, 150,000. I've seen people be comfortable at 200 plus thousand.
Sure.
And it's very frustrating to see that, and that in themselves, they think that's what their job is, and they might be limiting themselves in terms of even what types of sales that they do, that they don't really pursue new or reman, they don't really pursue brokering or warranty or whatever they have as their mindset of this is what I do. And I look at it, you already excel with excellence within this area. Why are you limiting where your excellence lies, right? Why don't you want to be excellent across the board? And unfortunately, either I have to accept, which I don't, that's where they're at, or, sometimes you have to go to great lengths to make not necessarily your bottom performance, but if it's a mid-tier or top performer that's comfortable, there's a big risk for the company. There's a big risk for that person to really start targeting that person to improve. But I try and free their mind to a sense of, do you understand what you could be if you just let loose and started applying the same level of effort and expertise that you've shown here? How far you could go, how big you could go. Why limit yourself? On the bottom end, it's a little bit easier, right? I'm not as scared to lose a $50,000 person. I look at that and say, anybody else that had these opportunities, what would I expect? On this team, it'd be here. So in many ways, as a owner, sales manager, whoever, I look at that as like, look, if you're comfortable here, now I've got to move on, because you are a net negative opportunity. I could easily sit here and say, you are costing the company $30,000 a month. You're costing $50,000 a month based on what our average is. If I gave your phone calls to so-and-so, that's what we would net. I might like this person. They might be a good teammate. They might have a lot of positives going on. At the same time, I have a duty to my customers. I have a duty to my company. They're potentially costing somebody a job in production. They're potentially costing us bids at the auction. They're potentially costing us in a lot of different places. And on the sales counter, I just can't tolerate or have a culture or mindset of, I'm hourly, I'm just on the clock, I just answer so many calls. This is not a completion oriented business of just checking task off. You have to produce, period. And there needs to be that anxiety, there needs to be that stress, or on the flip side, excitement when it's positive, when things are going well. It can't just be this sense of this is all I can do. I'm comfortable, and this is my job, and I clock in, I work my 40 hours, no problem. That might be there, but as a sales manager or owner or trainer, I have to root that out, and I have to get rid of it, whether it be by changing that within that person or moving on from that person. I can't allow that to fester or become a part of our culture.
Absolutely. And so when I was thinking about it in regards to this guy I started working with, really for any salesperson who wants to do better than they currently are, or for any salesperson who feels like they're kind of stuck in that, window of always selling more or less the same amount, really some of the first steps they need to do are to start trying to change their self-concept in regards to what is possible.
Right. Yeah, and there's, to me, this is just my own wiring. It's that existential side. You get one life to live, man. Like this is your job, this is your career. You've already been here 2 years. How long do you think you could work here? Why is this your legacy? You spend for a lot of us, we spend more time with our colleagues or at our workplace in our life than we do anywhere else. Especially if you're anywhere over 10, 15 years, you'll spend that time longer than your classmates, than with anything else, with your customers, with everything else. Why would you not want to be the absolute best you could be? What do you have to risk, right? By at least striving to be your best. It doesn't cost you anything but that mindset. And so I look at that as I feel like I owe it to that person to either move them off that perch. I don't want to see their life wasted. I don't want to see my time wasted. I don't want to see the company's time wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you headed? Where are you going? Is this for you or not? It can be. You have everything you need to make this a career, something successful, something vibrant that you could really be proud of, right? I'm not going to accept that for you. I have a duty to you to not accept that.
Yeah,
there is more into.
When we're working with people directly, I think that's one of the benefits that it is that we have, is that we can be the ones to help facilitate that change in self-concept.
Right.
For people who aren't necessarily working with us, that are listening or watching, that would be one of the very first things I would ask myself is, where is it in my sales that I have a poor self-concept? Is it my ability to sell brokered parts? Is it my ability to follow up and court a sale? But that being able to identify that and then work on that particular area of self-concept is some of like the very first preliminary steps that somebody might need to take in order to be able to sell more, improve their sales.
Well, for sure, because I think we've seen enough, and you all have, you owners and managers out there as well. We know we have certain groups of employees that are really more here for a job, or at least even when they start, they don't come in thinking of this being their career. And that might not mean they think they're only going to be here a few years. They're just not career minded. They're paycheck to paycheck minded. And they're not going to, from what I've seen, very few of them make that leap, make that jump themselves. And there's a lot of value I see in organizations that have good managers, good mentorship, good training, that not only do they invest in training from a procedural standpoint, from a knowledge standpoint of the product or the inventory system, but they also want to develop people. Right? They have managers or people that are actively trying to make people better, whether that be through motivation, engagement, or just building a relationship with them. That is a dynamic that is distinctly different at companies that are high achieving and their best. There's companies that might shortchange that and burn people out with how hard they work and the attitude and effort. But there's other companies that they develop high achievers for the long haul because they bake into it, they build into it a sense of pride, a sense of competition, of competing and seeing what they can do, setting new records. Like you're saying, that idea that, I had a record sales month, so I kick back. Okay, you do that, guess what? You're going to have a record credit month coming back in to follow that. And now you're going to be even lower than you were the previous month.
Yep.
So as a salesperson, you have to have that mentality of you're never finished. You're always setting, nail that goal, and you can celebrate. There's nothing wrong with being proud of an achievement or anything like that. But if you fail to then set the bar again, even if it's like, all right, I'm going to do that again. We had the pleasure of watching one of our companies. They'd never had a salesperson go over 200,000 before. Great company, long-term company that, good sales team, had a lot of talented salespeople that just hadn't reached that level. One came up less than $1,000 from that threshold in 1 month, and was so close to setting and being the first person to break that mark. Then next month, one of the other salespeople just smashes it and goes well over 200,000, which was very exciting to see. Mm-hmm. But what's been great is watching that salesperson that came up just short that person now all of a sudden is on pace to set a sales record for themselves. They've bounced back. They found that stride, and I'm not sure. I'll have to check of what the numbers were, but I think they might be on pace to break that company record. Yeah, they're on pace to break that company record.
Yeah,
this month.
that aligns perfectly with what I'm saying, because 2 or 3 months ago, it wasn't even within those guys' self-concept to be able to sell more than 200,000. And
Yeah.
if there's proof that anything can be done, it's that somebody's already done it. And so
Sure.
now they're seeing people are doing it, and now it's like, oh, this can be done, you know?
Right.
And so that's exactly what I'm talking about. So anybody who's listening, anybody who's watching, who's thinking, hey, I am always kind of stuck in this window of always performing more or less the same. All right, time to work on changing your self-concept. That's really maybe the first step. Identify
And even
have a negative self-concept in regards to your sales.
Yeah, the limiting factors, viewing limits, it's almost, we have this term in psychologists, learned helplessness, this idea that you're just stuck and that's all there is. And sometimes too, owners suffer from that too. They're not immune to this, where even they begin to believe this is all that we can do. And so that's where our peer groups, that's where our sales training, I think, have a tremendous benefit. As we come in, we have this wealth of experience with all these different companies. We've seen them make the transition. We've seen them make the change, and we can hone in and key in on those things that are going to smash that limiting culture. I mean, we're not interested in it. It's very simple for us to just say, hey, we're just after controlling what we can control. And within that, on a daily, hourly basis, guys, we're going to move mountains here. We're not even going to realize it. You're just going to be making these subtle changes, and you're gonna be shocked at the end of the month where we end up. So it's really a blessing to do that, even from a team standpoint when we're moving that self-concept along, but also internally. There's, I think, a self-concept that I want to touch on as well of, I can't consistently do this, right? So you have your erratic, sometimes they're motivated, sometimes they're not salespeople, and they believe about themselves that I just can't clock in and repeat this month after month. No, that's not true. Just because you haven't before doesn't mean you can't develop that habit, doesn't mean you can't develop that mentality. So that doesn't happen without intention. That doesn't happen without accountability. And oftentimes it doesn't happen without mentorship or somebody overseeing that. Mm-hmm. And you and your organization, I mean, we could measure this for you. I don't know if you've taken a look, but if you looked at the lost opportunity, I mean, this is where we make our money. This is where Rich and I make our money. As we come in, we don't all of a sudden just generate more searches for you or other things like that. We don't change the call volume per se or anything like that overnight. I think there's things we can do to enhance that. That said, if you have opportunities, closes, sales potential that's going unmet, we can help achieve that. We can help shift that mentality. We can help shift those dynamics and those habits on that team, because we'll be relentless at it. That's all we'll focus on. That's our sole purpose. And so us being able to do that, I think, really unlocks the keys. And we've been able to show at least 4 or 5x return on the money spent on our services. So we've said before that, we're a net neutral cost. We're more than that. We're a bang up cost with what we do. And so if anybody's out there and you're not seeing this, you're not seeing these results, you're not seeing these changes, invest in your company, invest in yourself. Sales is one of the most dynamic things. It's not consistent. It's not going to produce on its own, right? So if you can't change your people, you can at least come in and change how they perform. You can at least come in and change their parameters. You can change those things that will help you do and partner with you and your company to start achieving those results. And it's good for you, your company, to produce more profit. It's good for your salesperson because now they have a chance to grow their sales. And if they're commission, obviously they get a benefit of that. It's good for your customers because, hey, they get more order fulfillment from you and they get your great service. So why would you not invest in this? Why would you not go after that? This is a raw material that often goes underutilized. That's your personnel. Okay, they can be highly productive, they can be highly unproductive and inefficient. So which side are you going for? And what are you doing to make those changes? If you don't feel capable within your own team, within your own company of doing that, you're no longer stuck. You don't have to accept that. You can bring in us, you can bring in outside service to be able to produce that for you. So Rich, that was really great concept, good ideas there. I really like that mindset and that mentality. And I know a lot of this, we're working on the mental game, we're working on the people, but that's where the production lies. That's where the excess opportunity and potential lies. It's the people that are in your organization. So it's not just lip service what we're talking about. We've seen real power and progress in what we do. So thank you all for joining us. It's our pleasure to bring this content to you every week. We hope to earn your business and your listenership. Want to remind you again, we do have our closing school coming up at the end of the month, Tuesdays, August 25th. That's going to be the beginning of the series, 7 a.m. in each time zone. That's $600 per person, and group rates are available. We have our new salesperson training. That's either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on your time zone. That will also be at 7 a.m. in your time zone. That's going to be $400 a person for new salesperson training. Reach out to me, see our accounts at countsbusinessconsulting.com. Again, group rates are available. This is a great opportunity. You're not going to find any investment in terms of sales training that's going to be more affordable or productive for you. It's great value, tremendous value. Thanks for your business. If you have any suggestions or topics or content you'd like us to produce, we love hearing from you guys, and we love your feedback. So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you guys down the road at conferences when we can reconvene. And if not, we hope to see you online. So thank you very much, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you.